Okay, so fourth ODI from Lords, so we better ask George. Is Dawid Malan the reverse Zach Crawley? Stats to die for, but England seemingly always desperate not to pick him.
Nicely
That's
put.
from James, yeah.
Are they desperate not to pick him though? I'm not sure they're desperate not to pick him. He's been injured a bit, and competition for places is pretty fierce. But are they desperate not to pick him? I'm not sure about. You know, he was injured right before the 19 World Cup, wasn't he? He got injured in Dublin, didn't he? He injured his hamstring during the T20 World Cup last year. I don't know. He's been injured, and the competition's fierce. I think it's a bit much is made of that.
Swamnil Singh asks, why has Dawid Malan always been underappreciated, despite having some of the best numbers?
Is he always underappreciated? I don't know. Who's underappreciated him? Are you? I don't think you are. What's he played? 20 games? Look, I think you'd have to accept that top order position for England has been incredibly difficult to get into. You've had Bairstow and Roy, who were record breaking to the World Cup, and you've had Root at 3. So, you know, you could be a really, really good player and not get into that. Also, he plays in a somewhat old-fashioned way, in that he, at least for the first portion of his innings, you know, plays himself in a wee bit and then hits fours rather than the power game where he hits, but potentially hits sixes like other players. And you can see why that it would be difficult to get into the side when Joe Root is already doing that role. So, aren't England lucky that they've got such options? But he's absolutely nailed this series. If you think 2 weeks ago, there was chat that he might not even get in the squad, you know, that he was the most vulnerable perhaps to Brooke. And now he looks absolutely guaranteed to play, you know, to be in the team, to be the first choice opener. So, you know, brilliant series for him. And he's had a nipper as well. David Johanna's the fifth. Brilliant. What more could the fella want?
Maybe we could dig down a little bit into the underappreciation. I listened to Phil Will McPherson at the break, and he said that he'd picked his World Cup squad before the series, and Milan wasn't even in it. I feel like his place in the team has become more secure, and that's been helped by the form of those around him, i.e. not being particularly good. Is it the case of him being underappreciated because his form and his numbers suggest he should always be first choice, and yet he rarely is? He's not one of the most recognisable names in this team. He's not a highlight reel. He's not going to go viral anytime soon.
Well, maybe not, but I don't know why that would be the case, because he plays those drives through the covers, you know, as sweetly as anyone in the world, really. He's beautiful. But as I say, he tends to hit fours and generally traditional cricket shots in an era where maybe our appetite has been changed and we want reverse scoops and things like that. And he's, you know, he's got those things in there, or he's got some sort of those things in there. But as I say, I think the competition is pretty fierce, and he plays a slightly unglamorous game in that way. But I don't particularly understand it, because look, he's been number one in the world in T20 cricket, under pressure again and again. When people have suggested his place might be in doubt, he's delivered, and that's exactly the sort of player you want in the side at a major tournament. He's absolutely nailed it.
The Cruncher asks, do you think Brooke has missed his chance to push his case with Roy's injury?
Well, he has,
as the lights gone out on Harry Brooks' World Cup hopes?
Beautifully done. No, they haven't. But he hasn't made it impossible not to pick him, has he? He hasn't had a great series. I think his best hope now maybe resides with their decision about Jason Roy. You know, Jason Roy hasn't been able to play all series because of his back spasms. Honestly, I've just seen him. He's got a face like thunder. He looks extremely unhappy, frustrated. Why wouldn't he be? Now, there's a real possibility that the World Cup is going to be snatched away from him, and it's very, very unfortunate. But the situation is that if he's got a fragile back, for want of a better expression, and you're about to go do lots of travelling, and England do masses of travelling, lots of stays at different hotel beds, is that going to be an issue? You know, you don't want to go in with someone who's not fit. So he's already, I think, Jason Roy this is, assured not to be first choice opener. He is generally a top order batter, so could England benefit from bringing in someone that's maybe more versatile and certainly fitter? And that's where Brooke or maybe Will Jacks could potentially come into the equation. And they've got some thinking to do there. Without knowing how serious the fitness issue is, it's impossible to give a really informed decision. But I think everyone would agree it'd be absolutely brutal for him to finish like this, because it probably is the finish of his ODI career. He's already been dropped from the T20 side. You talk about unsung heroes, or whatever the expression was with Dawid Malan. I think Jason Roy is a massive unsung hero of this side. Not completely unsung, obviously, but he was such a massive part of the resurgence in 2015, and such a huge part of England's World Cup success. If you remember, they weren't brilliant for the first portion of their group games. Roy was struggling with hamstrings again, I think. Came back into the side.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Selfless, brave, destructive, powerful, all those things. Consistent with it. He's done so much for England. I get the impression he's not one of those massively loved cricketers by the spectators, and I think he should be. Big Jason Roy fan, as you can hear. I think he's a bit underappreciated, actually. But I hope he makes it. I hope he nails it.
He's the new Dawid Malan.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Yeah, I don't really get where this stuff comes from. I guess that people become fashionable for various reasons, and who wouldn't like Harry Brook? Who wouldn't want him? But as I say, I think that people have lost faith with Jason Roy a little bit quickly.
Background noise asks, where would you currently place England in the World Cup pecking order?
Yeah, good. I think if they make the semi-finals, they've done pretty well, actually. I think if they don't make the semi-finals, that would be very disappointing. Once you get to the semis, anything could happen. I don't think they're favourites. I think they're looking... I'm a bit more confident than I was a couple of weeks ago, but there's so many question marks about the fitness of key players. Adil Rashid, Mark Wood, Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow. For one thing, it's quite hard to know what to do with them all in the field. And I just think when you're crossing your fingers about so many different players, it's going to be a surprise if something doesn't go wrong at some stage, that's all. And England don't win the World Cup without Jofra Archer last time, and they're going to be without Jofra Archer. So I don't see them as one of the favourites, but if they get to the semi-finals, I think we should think they've done really, really well. Is that it?
It is.
Brilliant. Thanks for all the questions this series. I think I'm going to see you again very soon.